Hey, it's Tanya here, author of A Child-Free Happily Ever After, and I want to continue this child-free conversation with you. Now, as someone who is child-free, I have been subject to all sorts of crazy statements of things that people have said to me over the years, some of which have been very hurtful and nasty. And I'm sure if you're child-free as well, that you've probably experienced many of these as well. Now, one of the reasons why I wrote my book, A Child-Free Happily Ever After, is to try and change this dialogue and this conversation that is happening out in society. Now, so often when we talk about being child-free, there's a lot of judgment and criticism around that. And I want to change that to support and acceptance of our choice. So part of the way that we can do this is to change the conversations that we're having and the dialogue that we're having. So if you are in a group of friends, whether that's social friends or in the workplace, I want you to be really mindful about the conversations that you're having, particularly when it comes to women getting together and having these conversations, because women are the worst when it comes to judging and criticizing other women in their choices. I want you to consider the statements you are making. If you are in a conversation, don't say things like, that person is so selfish for not having children. Oh, you'll never know real love. Oh, what would you know because you're not a mother? Oh, who's going to look after you when you're old and grey? All these types of statements are not productive, they're not helpful, they're just nasty. And they don't need to happen, because guess what? I'm not selfish just because I choose not to have children. I'm not going to expect anyone to look after me when I'm old and grey, and neither should you, because there's no guarantee that your child is going to look after you when you are older. So some of these statements are just absolutely ridiculous. You need to start to think about how you frame these conversations and the conversations you're having, particularly when you are around child-free people. And if you are making those types of statements to them, I really want you to sit back and consider what you were saying and consider how hurtful and nasty they are. Now, they can be particularly hurtful and nasty if the person you are talking to is actually childless by circumstance. Now, if someone is trying to have a child, or they really want one, but they haven't been able to, when you say those comments to someone, that is really, really hurtful and nasty to them, because it's not by choice, it's by circumstance. So you don't know someone's situation when you're jumping to these conclusions and making these statements. So it's time for you to start to consider the words that come out of your mouth. Okay? It doesn't take long. Just think about it. It doesn't matter who you're talking to, whether that person is child-free or not. We need to reframe these conversations. Too often I hear, women, mums criticizing other mums because they didn't breastfeed, or they didn't give birth naturally, or they're doing this particular type of parenting or whatever. Guess what? It's none of your business how someone else chooses to have a baby, or how they choose to parent their child. Stop judging and criticism other women in general. It doesn't need to happen. Think about what you're saying, guys. Okay, we're supposed to be a sisterhood. Now, I think the whole sisterhood argument is total bullshit, to be honest, because I see more women tearing each other down rather than actually supporting and holding each other up as we should be. Okay, have a think about the conversations that you're having. Be mindful of the words that are coming out of your mouth, and let's reframe the dialogue and the conversation that we are all having in society to make it a much happier and nicer place for all of us. And in the meantime, never let anyone dull your sparkle.